Hello, today's activity is going to be about learning to blend watercolor. So we're not making a very specific painting today. We are just going to make something that teaches us how watercolor works. So you just need some watercolors, and if you just have 8 colors, that's fine. I happen to have 16, but we'll just use the 8 today. This is the brush that came with the paint, so you don't need a fancy brush. It can be a brush. We're looking for something sort of tiny. This is a piece of 9x12 watercolor paper that I have cut in half. For this activity, we're going to go ahead and fold this in half. You'll also need some tape, and you can use washi tape, scrapbook tape, painter's tape, artist tape, anything like that that will release from the paper when we're done. Then you'll just need some regular old water to clean your brush out and add to your paint. I also have a paper towel handy. That's a great idea. If you are feeling very experimental today, you can grab some regular old table salt, but this is not necessary for the outcome. The first thing we're going to do is fold this directly in half. So kind of try to find your edges, get right in there, and really crease this crease down. Super crease it. So press it down super duper good. And then we're not going to paint on this side, we're going to flip it over. So this will be our painting surface. I am going to tape the edges. So we're just going to take a piece of tape and put it right here on the edge, about half the tape on, half the tape off. This is going to help keep paint from just spilling off of our piece of paper while we try to work. Try not to press your hands, because you have oil on your hands, too much on the paper where we'll be painting. So same thing over here. We're just going to go about half on, half off. I have some cute little Happy Cloud Rainbow washi tape that I'm using. You can use regular painter's tape like you would use to paint in your house. Just don't press it down super crazy hard at the end. You just want something that's going to release from the paper at the end. So we are going to remove this. So there we have it. So now we have prepared this lovely little section in the middle of all our tape where our painting will take place. So we are going to start, we're just going to learn how to blend today. This isn't something that requires a great deal of skill, and if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, totally okay. Watercolor is one of those types of art where you don't always get to be in charge of exactly everything that's going on, and it can be frustrating to people, but this is kind of a fun way to learn. So I've taken some water and I've just dabbed it into the purple on my paper, and I'm going to take my brush and just make a line. So I just have a purple line, period. Did I get all the edge? There we go. Purple line. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm going to pick a color that is near purple. So I can pick a blue or a red. I don't want to pick a yellow, because yellow and purple mixed together are going to make brown. So I'm going to go with, let's go with red. We'll go purple to red. So I'm going to take some red and mix a little water in there and get it to where it's kind of like a liquid on top. And I'm going to make a line right next to this purple. So you can see nothing fancy. It's just a line. I am rinsing my brush, and then I'm coming back with only water. I'm not going into the paint again, just water. And I'm going to run straight between these 2 bars of paint like this. I'm not blending back and forth, I'm just going straight up and down. And you can see our paints kind of start to blend at the little boundary. I'm going to rinse again, and I'm going to take the very tip of this brush and I'm going to kind of brush this purple not all the way over into the red, but really just kind of into the clear part where I don't think it went far enough. So I'm just kind of encouraging my paint to have a party. Sometimes your paint, when you're watercoloring, your paint has a party and you have not authorized that party, and it can be just very maddening. And that's why a lot of people shy away from watercolor. But I think this will help you become a little more comfortable with it. So you should be by now figuring out kind of how much water you need to get a nice piece of paint going down the middle. So now next to red, let's do some blue, because red and blue will mix to make a color that's purple, but it probably isn't going to be exactly that purple. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make a blue stripe. Now you can see here it got a little bit light, so that means I need more paint or more water. I'm going to add both. And all of your stripes don't have to be exactly the same length. So this one's going to be a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to come right next to that red. I don't want to touch it. I just want to be very, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And then I'm going to rinse thoroughly. And I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to swoop it down. And you can see how that paint will start to play. Like the red is starting to come over. And if I want to encourage that a little bit more, I can just zigzag my brush, but only really along that line where the little boundary is. Because I want them to make friends. Alright, so next to blue, I think I'm definitely going to go with green. I want to see, oops, did I strip water on there? So I'm going to go with some green. So I'm getting some water, I'm going to pick up some green, and I'm going to make a stripe that does not touch that blue. Oops, we might be touching a tiny bit there, but it's okay. So I want a nice thick stripe of green, and then I'm rinsing the brush, and I am going over here and I am just joining these two colors. So sometimes you can see like the edge of that blue dried a little bit. That's totally okay. Just go scribble at it with the tip of your brush, and all is well. It will party. All right, so some of you may have some salt. If you do, while the paint is still wet, sprinkle a tiny amount of paint on top of it. And I don't want to sprinkle this over here where I'm painting, but just away. It's just gonna, when it dries, it crystallizes and does some fun things. So, all right, and you can see this green is partying across all of its friends here. And if you don't want that to happen, you can just dry your brush out really well and take it and kind of roll over here and suck up that paint. And then get rid of it on your paper towel and suck up that paint over here a little more. Now, if you just want to let green party, that's totally can happen. It's all right. It's up to you. Whatever you think, the look you want for your painting. So now for green, I'm going to go into yellow. A good rule of thumb is, you know, colors that would be very near each other on the rainbow, as opposed to colors that would be at opposite ends of the rainbow. So I'm going to make my yellow stripe. I'm going to get it good and watery. And then I'm cleaning out, grabbing some water in my brush. Maybe that's a little too much water. I'm just going to make my straight down the paper stripe. Now, the paint is not really having a big enough party to make me happy here. So I'm just going to, right on the line where they meet, I'm going to zigzag. And we can go back and forth and do that some more. And you'll find that certain colors want to party more than other colors do. So you can use more of those colors or less of those colors. All right, next to yellow, you can always go in a progression, or we could go back to green. We could see what happens. And you can use whatever colors you want. You don't have to follow my color choices. I'm going to go over and use, what should we do? Let's go with an orange. So orange is going to be very skinny. Skinny little orange. And I'm trying not to touch that yellow. Rinsing the brush. And going back straight down the line. You can go upward too. And we can see there's kind of a lot of paint right here, so I'm just going to get rid of some of it. I'm going to go back and get that happening. And since you've made more wet paint, sprinkle a tiny bit more salt in there. All right, what's next to orange? Let's go back to red. Do a nice stripe of red. It's going to be a little thicker. If you notice that you're making your stripe on your paper and your brush isn't just flowing over the paper, just get a little more water and come down. Sometimes you need to water it up a little more. All right, so I'm rinsing, and then I'm going to invite red to the party. All right, well that worked well. I don't need to really add any more water, I don't think, to that one. So what can our next color be? We can also go, you can surround. I'm just going to go to yellow now. I'm going to see what that looks like when it mixes with the red. We know that red and yellow make orange, but it might not make that orange. It might make a different orange. Okay, so I'm rinsing. And I'm just going to get my droplet of water and run it down. And these didn't blend as much up here as I want them to. So I'm going to stay right on the boundary of those two and kind of encourage them to party it up. Come on, colors. And then I'm going to drop a tiny bit more salt. You don't need a lot. You don't want to put a lot of salt on there. All right, what's going to be next to yellow? What if we go back to, ooh, green again. Let's do a green. Not too much paint, I could tell. All right, so green, here we go. It's time to party with the yellow. As soon as the doors open, yellow's not ready for you yet. So now I'll grab some water and I'll just drag it straight down. And that's kind of, green is being super friendly. Wanting to go into red. So I'm going to roll my brush up here and try to keep that green from going crazy with the red. But you can kind of shoo it in this direction. Now this here, this green that's traveling very far, I kind of like. I think that's a cool looking effect. So I'm not even going to try to intervene. It's fine. Okay, so under green, I'm definitely going to put some blue. I don't know if you have a favorite color. A lot of people like all the colors, which I kind of do, but blue tends to be my super very favorite, and it always has. So this blue stripe's going to be kind of big. Because I dropped a little drip of blue paint over here, so I thought, well, I guess that stripe's going to be huge. No one will ever know that I didn't plan for this stripe to be huge. They'll just look at this and say, my, that's a lot of pretty colors, Kasey. All right, so then at the edge of where our blue and green meet, just gonna wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And I'm going to encourage them to be very good friends. There we go. All right, so this is starting to look super pretty. I love it. And you can start to see what the salt is doing. So the salt kind of sucks up the colorful water, and then as it crystallizes and dries, it makes that really neat pattern for us. I'm going purple again, and let's see, how big will this purple stripe be? See, I got these white things here again. That means, Kasey, you need to use a little more water and a little more paint. If you can't see through your paint, if your paint is so thick that you can't see through to the paper, you're using too much paint out of the pan. Like, just touch your brush or add a little more water. All right, I'm breaking the rules here. I'm painting over the blue in my first step. You can break the rules too. We're not here to police your watercolor usage. All right, so I have a little space here left and I have to decide, is this going to be one color or two colors? So my options for mixing with blue are or with purple are red or blue or possibly green, but I wouldn't go yellow. Yellow and purple are going to just make brown. I think let's try a green because it's still kind of a cool color, but it's not going to get, I think, super brown if we use it. It'll be an okay mixture with purple. And then I'll stick some, I don't know if the bottom will be blue or the bottom will be yellow. I think the bottom will be blue. All right, it's getting to be salty time. That blue paint might dry on me, so I'm just going to put a tiny bit of salt. All right, the last color I'm including is going to be blue. So I am just going straight on. I'm not even worrying about keeping room between my blue and green, because I do what I want. All right, and you can too. There, so now we have this really nice, going back in with a little salt. So now we have this really nice gradient, and you can see that the colors behave differently. Some colors really like to spread. Green, I'm looking at you. Some colors don't, and this is just what you will learn about the paints you're using. Different brands of paints, the colors will do different things, so it's not going to always be exactly the same. So that's a great way to blend. You're going to want to wait for this to dry, and then when it's at least dry at the edges, you can peel that tape off. So as you can see, mine for now is not really dry at the edges. So I'm going to grab, I have a nice little thank you card somebody wrote me here at the end. I'm going to fan it a little bit. Now the salt trick doesn't work if you use a hairdryer to make your paint dry. So if you really want to see what the salt is going to do for you, don't run and grab a hairdryer too quickly. I just want to make sure that all of these places kind of at the very edges here are dry. And I can already see some paint got underneath my tape, so I'm not going to cry about that. That's just going to be kind of the cool way my painting looks, and it will be fine. So at the end of your painting, the best thing to do is just let it dry naturally, walk away from it, and come back in a little bit. Because I am making a video for you, that's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and peel for you now so you can see. And the reason I put the edge on here prior to painting is I want to try and corral that paint within a border. So I did a pretty good job. And just peel that paint straight back, just like when you're peeling paint off a window at your house that you tried to paint. So we have this nice, beautiful, clean, straight edge. And voila! There it is. It's so pretty. And if you want to, you can even take and make sure it's like the way it would open if it was a greeting card. And you can sign your name. And when this dries, you actually have a little card you could send to someone. And you may be looking at this business right here going, oh no, it messed up. I don't care. I think it's really pretty, and I'm happy with it. It makes my heart happy to look at it, so I'm not going to worry about these little tiny mistakes. If you really don't like it, I hope that you have more paper and you can try again. Thanks for joining me.